Discover 6 sinister cult stories revealed, spine-chilling tales of the cursed and haunted. Lily stepped into the suffocating gloom of their home. The stale air felt like a heavy weight on her chest. The walls closed in on her, echoing with whispers from the shadows that danced across the dim living room. Just 6 months ago, she had a family. Now Maple Grove's perfect facade was crumbling around her. As she caught a glimpse of Tommy, painting shadows with his imagination, dread prickled at her spine. "Mommy, they're back," he whispered, his little face pale and haunted. A chill ran through her. She often caught odd looks from the neighbors, their smiles betraying secrets buried deep in this community. Mr. Hawkins, with his wild hair and tattered clothes, stared too long, a knowing glimmer in his sunken eyes. Were they watching her? Watching Tommy? She hated that pit in her stomach. It was sickening, this paranoia building day after day. There was something lurking just beneath the surface, and it felt eerily connected to her husband's disappearance. That evening, Lily rummaged through the attic, searching aimlessly for old decorations, only to be swallowed by darkness and dust. But there, at the back, was a door she'd never noticed, half hidden underneath a tattered quilt. The air was different once she opened it, thick with the smell of old paper and decay. As her fingers brushed against strange relics, it felt like they were alive, as if they watched her just like Mr. Hawkins. "Mommy, I don't like this place," Tommy said, wide-eyed, clutching her leg. "They don't want us here." The hairs on her neck prickled. She should be left right then, but curiosity pulled her deeper into the suffocating silence. Behind the creaking floorboards, stories of curses and ancient rites came to life. This was not mere folklore, it was a warning. Later that night, the house sighed and groaned a mournful melody that pierced her. Light flickered, shadows loomed. Tommy's soft voice broke the silence. "They say we can play a game." Panic swelled inside her. Who were these friends? Her heart pounded in her chest, fear wrapping around her throat like an iron grip. Venturing into Maple Grove that next day, she sought the police, but their dismissive smiles chilled her more than the creeping horror she felt at home. "Everything's fine, ma'am. Just your imagination." Funny how the words felt rehearsed, like something larger was obscured behind their kindness. Desperation made her bold. Then came the whispers, more than what she expected. "You're being watched," echoed in Mr. Hawkins' creaky voice as he confirmed her worst fears, chasing semblances of sanity from her mind. "The sacrifices they're coming for your boy. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, and then the inevitable happened. One stormy night, a figure loomed outside their home, heart-stopping in its stillness. Lily clutched Tommy's hand, feeling the cold sweat trickle down her back. The silhouette stood motionless, as if waiting for the storm to pass, watching their every move. The whispers intensified, a violent wind twirling through the trees, drawing the storm's attention to her shattered family. Fear turned her heart into a drumbeat of dread. The realization sunk in there was nowhere to run. The friendly faces of her neighbors wore masks, hiding something far more sinister than she could have imagined. A deep breath pulled taut across her chest. With trembling hands, she opened the door. But who or what stood at the threshold? Lily's breath caught. The figure remained shrouded in darkness, and shadows wrapped around it like tendrils of smoke. She could feel Tommy's grip tightening on her leg, his small body trembling against her. "Mommy, don't let them take me," his quivering voice broke, punctuating the heavy silence that suffocated them. "Who are you?" Lily shouted, her voice barely more than a whisper. Eyes, wide and full of terror, darted over the figure's silhouette, searching for some sign of humanity. But deep within the darkness, that glimmer was absent. Instead, an unnatural stillness settled, as if time itself had halted. The storm raged overhead, thunderclaps shaking the ground beneath their feet. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the figure momentarily. Eyes, cold and empty, stared back at her. They were the eyes of hunger, shadows of an unspeakable depth. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, breaking into a slow crawl towards the porch. Each movement was accompanied by the soft scuff of tattered shoes over the wooden floor. Lily's heart raced. There was no room for reasoning. Her instincts screamed to flee. She pulled Tommy closer, backpedaling instinctively into the home, ready to slam the door shut, but curiosity held her rooted for just a moment longer, and then, without warning, a deep voice echoed from the figure. "Your time has come, Lily." A chill washed over her. It was a voice that sounded both ancient and familiar, sending shivers of recognition through her. She had once heard it in fleeting nightmares, the whispers blending into something sinister. The realization dawned this was not just a stranger, it was a conduit of the darkness lurking in Maple Grove. "Leave us alone!" she screamed, propelling herself into the house, but the door suddenly slammed shut behind her. Tommy shrieked, the sound shrilling through the air, joining the tempest outside. A raspy laughter danced through the house, reverberating off the walls, mixing with the raging wind. "You cannot escape what you've invited into your home," the figure beckoned, its voice now ringing with malice. "He's been chosen." "No!" Lily's voice cracked as she sank onto the floor, a sob tearing through her. Panic clawed at her like a feral beast, its claws digging deeper, threatening to shred her sanity. She had to protect Tommy. She had to find a way out of this nightmare. As she leaned against the wall, she spied the silhouette outside again, illuminated for just a heartbeat by another flash of lightning. At that moment, she saw a gathering of others forming behind it, all lined up in the pouring rain, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. They seemed to be chanting, their gravelly voices melding into a thundering crescendo of despair. "Join us, join us!" Lily's heart raced as realization washed over her. These weren't mere townsfolk. They were the Watchers, the cult, the ones who had taken her husband. She closed her eyes, trying to will the vision away. But when she opened them, the door barricaded against her resolve. Tommy stood frozen in fear, eyes wide with terror. "Mommy, what do they want?" As the chanting rose to a fever pitch, a weight pressed on her chest. The walls felt like they were closing in, free of the whispers that once plagued her. They had amplified into a thunderous demand that reverberated through her mind. Then, from the corner of the room, a soft flickering glow caught her attention. It pulsed rhythmically, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the walls. Trembling, she turned, her heart sinking further. "What's that?" Tommy whimpered. "It can't be." Lily felt a chill snaking its way down her spine. What lay before her was the relics from the attic, active with energy, sparking life in the dead of night. She hadn't just uncovered artifacts, she had unearthed a connection to whatever darkness was stirring outside, and just as the chanting morphed into a single hungry roar, Lily realized she might be the only one that could protect Tommy. But could she face what the shadows beckoned her to embrace? What awaited them in that pulse of light? Would the game truly begin? The glow intensified, drawing Lily's gaze. It was as if the relics reached out, promising answers in exchange for her darkest fears. She hesitated, heart hammering in her chest, caught between dread and fascination. Tommy tugged at her hand, sensing her indecision. "Mommy, please." The walls shuddered as the chanting surged outside, a cacophony of desperate wails that clawed at her sanity. "Join us. Join us." The words twisted in her mind, snaking through her very soul. The energy seemed to wrap around her, amplifying her pulse as the shadows in the room danced more wildly. Lily wanted to scream, to shake the growing sense of inevitability, but the yearning for understanding kept her frozen. What lay within the light? Would it save them or pull them deeper into the darkness? "Don't touch it," she warned, pulling Tommy closer, but the child's eyes were fixated on the relics as if they beckoned him directly. "Tommy, no!" Panic spilled over into her voice. She could feel the gale of wind pressing against her, bending the very walls of their home. Then, without warning, a surge of wind swept through the house, rattling windows and doors. The chanting rose to an unbearable shriek. The confusion spun around them in an unseen cyclone. In her gut, she felt the weight of something unseen pushing against them. "Mommy!" Tommy wailed. His small frame trembled against her. "Stay close," Lily shouted, realizing they needed to fortify their barricade and regain control. "We need to keep it shut." She scrambled to the door, but as she did, the flickering light grew brighter, drowning her in its glow. A shadow flickered across the room, and the figure from outside began to materialize beside the relics. "Time to choose, Lily." Its voice dripped with malice, resonating through her core. Before she could react, a low rumble echoed inside her head. The relics pulsed with life, casting shadows that reached out with claw-like appendages, tapping into her fear and sorrow. She remembered the night that shattered her family, her husband's face twisted in anguish, the cult's laughter ringing cruelly in her ears. Join us, the walls echoed the chant, now mixed with whispers. Only she could hear her husband's pleas, his final desperate breath. An anguished cry tore from her throat. "No!" She yanked the door, but chains rattled behind it, anchoring her with a force far stronger than mere locks. The shadows danced closer, almost playful, letting out airy sighs that sent fresh waves of terror rippling through her. Tommy was by her side, confusion mixing with fear in his young face. "Mommy, listen to me, Tommy!" She held his face in her hands. "We cannot give in. Don't listen to them. They want to take you away." She glanced uneasily at the glowing relics where the shadows now twisted and churned. But Tommy's small voice rose above the clamoring voices, reaching her like a lifeline. "What if they're not bad? What if they can help us?" Her heart sank. The fear etched on his face mirrored her unease. He was so young, so innocent. But could she risk it? There was no time to consider their options. The wind howled louder. The chanting outside intensified, a storm of malevolence that sought to pull them into its depths. "Please, Mommy! Don't let them take me!" A splintering crack echoed through the house, steel against wood. The shadows surged at the edges of her vision. Time was slipping. In that moment, she felt fragmented, both a protector and a prisoner. As the relics pulsed with a new ferocity, a decision loomed above her: confront the shadows or be consumed whole. With a fearful gulp, she took a step toward the light, trembling yet resolute, and then, amidst the chaos, the light dimmed just as the door shuddered violently. Lily felt an icy grip at her back. Beneath the flickering glow, something new stepped forth, a familiar face twisted in horror, eyes wide, piercing through the darkness. "Lily, help me!" What should she do? Would she embrace the light or plunge further into the abyss that awaited? Lily's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a wild animal. The face before her twisted in pain, a visage she thought lost to the shadows creeping at the edges of her mind. "Sam?" she breathed. How could he be here? The memories crashed over her: his laughter, their life together, his final moments that left her shattered. "Lily, they're coming for me. You have to." His voice split the air, clear and desperate. A pulse of light flickered from the relics, and her resolve wavered. "Help you?" she stammered. "But you don't listen." The urgent cry from Tommy yanked her back from the brink. She turned to him, seeing the fear twisting his small features. The shadows tightened around them, greedy for their surrender, filling the room with an oppressive weight. "Mommy, it's not him." Tommy's eyes darted from the figure to the relics, a silent struggle simmering between their past and present. "We can't let them win." The wind shrieked outside, the walls creaked as if alive, pushing inward, squeezing her spirit. Sam's form flickered as if caught between this world and the next. "Lily! I need you. Everything I did, it was to protect you." The shadows danced closer, their outlines twisting, stretching, merging into grotesque figures that scratched at her sanity. The faces of the cult members flashed in her mind, their demented rituals echoing in her ears. She felt their laughter clawing at her consciousness, mixing with her husband's desperate plea. "Mommy, don't!" Tommy shouted again, his voice breaking, solidifying the dread pooling within her. But could she turn her back on his face? The relics pulsed violently, spitting out fragments of light that charred the air with an ominous hiss. Tommy's grip on her hand tightened, bringing her crashing back to reality. "What do we do?" "Fight," she rasped, the word rising from deep within her like a herald of war. She swallowed her fear and faced the relics, letting her rage flood her voice. "You will not take my son! You don't own us! You don't even know what you want!" The shadows recoiled slightly, as if her words struck a chord. Sam's distorted features softened momentarily. "Lily, please." The air grew thick with tension, vibrating with the energy of the shadows, testing her resolve. The relics pulsed faster now, illuminating the room with blinding light and casting monstrous shapes on the walls. "Stay back!" Lily screamed. The glow engulfed her, and for an agonizing moment she thought she had merged with it. No. They had to break free. "Mommy!" Tommy whimpered, the crack of fear evident in his voice. She swung around, locking eyes with him, desperately searching for a way forward. "Hold on to me!" she shouted, pulling him close. As the relics began to pulse wildly, a chilling breath of wind swept through the room, swirling around her in liquid darkness. The walls trembled as a whisper coiled around them. "Join us, join the lost." Lily clenched her teeth, fighting against the pull. She felt herself sinking, the shadows tugging at her soul, dragging her back to that horrific night, the screams of the cult ringing in her ears, and then she saw a shimmering crack of light beyond the roiling darkness. The doorway to the truth. Was it the way out, or another trap? "Tommy, we're jumping!" Before she could think, she lunged toward the blinding crack, dragging her son through the haze of despair. But as they leaped, shadows burst forth, enveloping them just before the light consumed everything. "Mommy!" Tommy screamed, reaching out in sheer terror. Nothing was visible but a pulsing void, silence descending like a heavy fog. Where had they ended up? Would they be swallowed by the darkness forever, or was there still a glimmer of hope in the depths? The echoes of his voice faded, leaving Lily teetering on the edge of desperation, a question hanging in the air. What awaited them in this new nightmare? The air suddenly crackled like an electric storm, and shadows danced more violently around them. Each flicker sent shivers racing down Lily's spine. She clutched Tommy to her, feeling his small body trembling against her chest. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The room began to pulse, the glow of the once inviting light shifting to an unsettling hue, like a dying star desperately holding on. Tommy's wide eyes darted around, searching for something they both feared. The cold touch of dread crept further into Lily's stomach. "Why don't we just leave?" Tommy suggested, his voice a fragile thread. "What if we just go back?" "No!" The word escaped her, sharp and panicked. "We can't go back. We can't let them get us." Before her words could settle, the voice emerged again, curling around them like a serpent. "Leave? Oh, my dears, where would you run? The house knows you now, it has seen your fears, your weaknesses. It will pull you back, always as if on cue." The walls twisted grotesquely, the paint peeling away to reveal what resembled faces screaming in torment. Emotions surged in Lily again, anger, fear, and then a flicker of defiance. "We're not afraid of you." The moment she said it, the room shook, reverberating with disgruntled laughter. The shadow's closure seemed to swell, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Oh, but fear you must. Fear is all that keeps you alive here," the voice cooed, as a figure began to emerge from the darkness. It was tall and cloaked, its face obscured by a deep cowl. Lily gritted her teeth and stepped back, clutching Tommy tighter. Just as she prepared to scream, another voice broke through the echoing laughter. A whisper, familiar yet foreign. "Help us, Mom?" Tommy cried out. "What?" "No! Stay back!" Lily forced him behind her and turned to face the figure. "What do you want?" The figure stood silent for a moment, then slowly reached out a skeletal hand, pointing behind her. In that instant, the air thickened with despair. It slammed into her like a physical force. "They're trapped here," the voice of her mother hummed, clear but distorted with pain. "Help us, Lily, no!" she shouted, refusing to believe. "You aren't my mother!" You're a trap. But doubt trickled in. The shadows shifted again, growling, and an image of her mother flashed in her mind, a warm, comforting smile, a gentle touch. Yes, save us, echoed the chorus, voices mingling in a maddening symphony. Lily shook her head violently. No, no! Tommy, we have to go! But Mommy, he trembled, his innocence bright and chilling against the mounting dread. I said no! She turned, determined to flee. Yet as she ran in search of an exit, something slithered beneath her feet. Disembodied whispers intensified, rushing past her ears like howling winds, lost souls begging for salvation. They reached another doorway, a slick, darkened passage that felt alive. Lily hesitated, heart hammering wildly as she looked down at Tommy. The boy's face was pale, eyes pleading. But behind her, the laughter shrieked, and the figures and shadows pressed closer. Tommy, trust me! She shouted, and without waiting, she pulled him through the doorway. Inside, the light flickered against the rough walls, revealing a long corridor that twisted deeper into the unknown. Behind them, the laughs turned into screams, each one ripping at the fabric of her resolve. Could they truly escape? Suddenly, another voice, a sinister hiss, slipped through the air. This is only the beginning, my sweet Lily, the next truth will terrify you. Panic surged through her. What more could be waiting for them in the depths of this malevolence? What truth? She shouted into the murky air, desperately hoping for an answer yet fearing the response. But instead, silence fell heavily around them, chilling her to the bone as a sense of dread pulled her forward into the hallway, where echoes of past horrors awaited. The corridor stretched endlessly, its oppressive darkness swallowing every flicker of light. Shadows cloaked the walls, twisting and curling like tendrils of smoke. Lily's heart raced, pumping adrenaline through her veins. She felt Tommy's small hand clammy in hers, as they moved deeper into the darkness. Where are we going? Tommy's voice trembled, echoing against the cold stone. We'll find a way out. We have to, but she wasn't sure. The laughter in the distance morphed into low whispers, darting around them, teasing them, amplifying her anxiety. They were not alone. The air turned icy, wrapping around them like a frigid embrace. Lily could almost see the shadows pulsating, alive, ready to consume them. Each step felt heavier, as terror clawed at her throat. She forced herself to keep moving, her mind racing through possibilities. We just need to keep going then. A sudden scrape against the wall sent her heart into her throat. It echoed unnaturally loud, like nails against a chalkboard. She stopped dead, listening. The scratching resumed, louder this time, undeniably closer. Lily, Tommy whispered, eyes wide with terror. Stay close, she hissed. Ignoring the urge to look back, she continued down the hall with a steely determination. But the noise grew, like something dragging itself in their wake. She felt the weight of invisible eyes watching them, waiting. What if it's the shadows? Tommy's voice threaded through her growing dread. It's nothing. Just keep moving. She forced herself to sound confident, even as her mind filled with nightmarish images of what could be lurking just out of sight. They reached a fork in the hallway, one path bathed in a flickering light that felt almost inviting, while the other continued into an abyss that seemed to pulse with a sinister hunger. Which way? Tommy asked, glancing nervously at both options. Light. But as soon as they stepped toward it, the flickering ceased, plunging them into darkness once more. A deep, echoing laugh resonated through the corridor. You should have chosen the other side. Light is merely an illusion. Lily shivered as the voice surrounded them, wrapping around her like chains. She felt the walls closing in, an ominous breath whispering secrets only meant for her. Run! She screamed, pulling Tommy along. They darted down the dark passage, the oppressive laughter following them, growing louder and more maniacal. Tommy stumbled, catching himself just in time but losing his grip on her hand. Lily! Her heart clenched as she turned. The corridor wobbled, warping as if the very architecture was alive. Shadows swarmed, eager for his little body, and she lunged to catch him just as dark fingers grazed his shirt. No! She shrieked, pulling Tommy away with all her strength. Together, they dashed deeper into the endless night, terror sharpening her senses. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a deep moan surged from the very walls. You think you can stop it? You are trapped, just like them. A flash of light flickered briefly ahead, a door adorned with intricate carvings leaped into view. Tommy, the door! She shouted, her voice raw with urgency. They barreled toward it, but just as they reached for the knob, a shadow yanked it open from the other side. The figure re-emerged, its skeletal hand reaching toward them, wrapped in shadows. Its voice was a deadly whisper. You're not meant to leave. Lily froze, feeling a cold sweat break out across her face. The darkness clawed at her, encircling them both. Tommy, back! She shouted, pushing him behind her. Their only hope was the door, but could they truly withstand the creature before them? Leave now or perish in the darkness. That wretched laughter bounced off the walls, echoing into an abyss. Lily's breath quickened, and as she fought against the terror clawing at her mind, a gut-wrenching thought emerged: what if they had no way out? She gripped Tommy's hand tighter, resolved but desperate, and took a step closer to the threshold, heart racing with fear and determination. Ready? She asked him, her voice barely a whisper as she braced for whatever lay beyond. But another voice broke through, deeper and darker than the first. Welcome to your true nightmare. The dread washed over her anew, heavy and suffocating, as the door creaked wider, the unknown spilling forth like a torrent.